Halle Bailey, barely out of what appears to be a tense, emotionally fraught custody battle with DDG, now finds herself entangled in another storyline with Kendrick Lamar's producer, Scott Bridgeway. When images of them booed up on a yacht hit the internet, fans were confused. Why would Halle jump into a new romance when her old relationship, complete with legal filings and restraining orders, is lingering in the background? While some may say that Halle is exercising her freedom to move on, beneath that freedom is a labyrinth of unspoken motives and unconscious drives, some of which even Halle herself may not fully grasp. But y'all already know that RRG is on the case. And today, we're about to peel back all the layers in this hot, stinking mess. But before Halle's sister Chloe beats the brakes off of us for being all up in Halle's business, don't forget to scoop up something to munch on at rrgsnacks.com, our online concession stand that has an assortment of applewood smoked bacon jerky, freeze-dried goodies, and butter toffee peanuts. One of the most compelling dynamics at play here is what therapists refer to as transitional relationships. This term describes the phenomenon of people forming new attachments because they are terrified of the emptiness that follows a loss. Their new partner provides a dopamine rush, validation, and the attraction soothes the raw wound of their old relationship. This pattern doesn't just appear out of nowhere. It often traces back to attachment style, the blueprint for how we connect and disengage with others, which is developed in early childhood. According to British psychologist John Bowlby's attachment theory, those with an anxious, preoccupied attachment style are particularly vulnerable to this cycle. They feel safest when coupled up, often equating partnership with their own identity. In the absence of a partner, their nervous system flares into panic, and they're convinced that isolation is intolerable. What makes this situation a bit messier is the presence of Halle and DDG's son, Halo. If a child weren't in the middle of this tomfoolery, perhaps more people would be cheering Halle on to live her best life. However, children amplify every decision. But when a child is involved, a child who is still learning and still relying on touch and consistency to build trust, every change in the environment is a disruption. The emotional state of the primary caregiver, in this case Halle, becomes the template the child uses to determine whether the world is a safe place. Psychologists have long cautioned that children are sensitive to maternal stress. Dr. Alan Shore's research on affect regulation in early development demonstrates that babies co-regulate their emotional states with their mothers. If a mother is emotionally unstable or preoccupied with a new romance, the child absorbs that inconsistency at a biological level. Their stress hormones elevate, their sleep patterns fragment, and their developing sense of self is shaped by unpredictability. And yet, it's not as simple as saying Halle has no right to move on. Humans are not machines. We are creatures of longing, built to connect and attach, even when it's not in our best interest. For a woman fresh out of a high-conflict relationship, one that allegedly required a restraining order, the hunger to feel cherished again can be overwhelming. Traumatic relationships often destroy self-esteem, and a new partner offers proof that you are still desirable, still worth choosing, and still worthy of love. Has she asked herself why she chose DDG in the first place? Has she given herself the grace of time to heal before opening herself to a new relationship? The timing is what has many people concerned. Halle's life is in a state of legal limbo. She is newly postpartum. DDG is fighting her in court. The ink on her restraining order is barely dry. And yet here she is, sunlit on a yacht, pressed against a man she may or may not know deeply. And what appears to be empowerment can sometimes be avoidance in disguise. We have created a society in which solitude is pathologized, especially for women. A woman alone must be healing, working on herself, or getting back out there. There is no acceptable middle space for simply existing without a plan. So when the pain of separation becomes too much, moving on feels like the only logical option. From the outside, Halle's relationship with Scott may look like a beautiful new beginning, but all that glitters is not growth. The question she must ask is, am I choosing this person because I genuinely know them and believe in our potential? Or am I choosing them because I am terrified to be alone with myself? Psychologists like Dr. Stan Tatkin argue that relationships are only as strong as the self-awareness of the people in them. If you haven't metabolized the lessons of your past, you will drag them into your present. If you haven't learned to soothe your own loneliness, you will look for partners to do it for you. In the end, only Halle knows the answer, but the stakes are higher now. Every choice she makes is not just about her own heart, it is about the ecosystem of her son's early development. It is about what he will one day understand about love, commitment, and self-respect. Perhaps the most sobering truth is that time doesn't heal all wounds. It is what you do with the time that matters. And if you spend it grasping for the next warm body to lie up under, you risk creating a legacy of unprocessed hurt. DDG has reportedly moved on with Instagram model India Love, and the public response has been far less scrutinizing than what Halle has faced for her own choices. This double standard reflects deep cultural biases about gender, attachment, and the expectations we place on mothers versus fathers. When a man moves on quickly, people are often inclined to shrug it off as typical male behavior. There's a widespread belief that men compartmentalize love and intimacy, that they can slide into new relationships without it necessarily reflecting on their character or capacity to parent. However, when a woman moves on, it triggers judgments about her stability, priorities, and worthiness. This is evidence of what psychologists call maternal idealization, the phenomenon where mothers are expected to be self-sacrificing to the point of invisibility. The truth is that both DDG and Halle are navigating the aftermath of a fractured relationship. Neither of them is immune to the coping mechanisms that emerge when love collapses in public. The only difference is that DDG has the cultural permission to distract himself without consequence, while Halle is left to defend every choice she makes. Halo might be a baby, but he's quietly absorbing every emotional shift, every distraction, and every moment when his parents' attention is elsewhere. And perhaps now is the time for Halle and anyone else who's trying to outrun their own emptiness to consider a different path. A path where healing isn't measured by how quickly you find someone new to fill the void, but by your willingness to sit inside it until it doesn't scare you anymore. No fresh romance, no tropical vacation, and no distraction can cover up what's unresolved inside you. And in the end, it won't just be Halo who feels her choices, it will be Halle herself. Our hope is that one day she wakes up and realizes that the love she was searching for in someone else was always meant to start within her. Sooner or later, the emptiness you tried to outrun will find its way back to you, no matter how many arms you fall into. And in the end, it won't just be Halo who inherits the tremors of her decisions. It will be Halle herself, carrying the quiet ache of lessons unlearned. Perhaps one day she will learn that no man will ever be able to love her in the way she was meant to love herself.